Yo, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Action Podcast. It's me, Layton. Today, we have a special guest, the most special of the special ones. We have Astrid Van Horn. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Welcome, Astrid.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm good.
Okay. You excited for the podcast?
Yes.
Okay. I know you, Astrid. I've known you for not too long. I've always seen you like running at the track where you train. I used to train there as well, actually, for quite some time. For the people who don't know you, who are you? What's your name? How old are you? Where are you from? And what are you known for doing?
Okay, so I'm Astrid Van Horn. I'm 17 years old. I'm known for running, I guess, because, yeah, I'm known for running, and I'm still in high school.
Okay.
And then I'm half Dutch, half Mozambican, but I used to live in Mozambique, and now I live in South Africa.
Okay. So is your father Dutch or your mother?
Yes, my dad's Dutch, and my mom's Mozambican.
Mozambican.
Yes.
Okay. What's it like to have those family from those different countries?
It's interesting, because there's a lot of different, like, cultures and different beliefs and whatnot, but besides that, it's nice.
What are some of the different cultural beliefs?
I mean, there's, like, certain things that my mom... I don't really know, like, exactly what... Like, it only pops up when it happens, and I'm like, oh, okay. But my dad and my mom think very differently. Because my mom thinks, like, the African way, if that makes sense. And then my dad's, like, he's white, so he just goes with it. Whatever happens.
What is thinking like the African way?
I mean... I'd say, like an example, like, having a boyfriend. My mom's like, no, you can't have a boyfriend until you're, like, 21. And you're like, girl. But then my dad's like, if you're like 12, then my dad would be like, okay, it's cool. Okay. Whatever. So. Okay,
maybe I'm generalizing a little too much, but do you think Europeans are more open-minded?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. And where's the balance in your household, given the fact that your father is open-minded, whereas in your own words, your mother is not? What's the balance?
I wouldn't really say there is a balance. I just say that, like, because I have siblings as well. So my siblings and I, we just kind of do whatever. And then we always just mainly lean towards my dad. So we're like, Dad, can we do this? Can we go there? And then my mom is always like, why are you guys always asking your dad? Yeah. But besides that, I mean, my mom's okay with a lot of things because she learned that, like, my siblings and I, we grew up thinking like my dad.
Okay.
And then they're okay with it. But besides that, usually my parents are like... They agree on almost everything.
Okay. There's like a compromise from both parties.
Most of the time.
Okay. Do you live with both parents?
Yes.
Okay. Ever since you were born?
Yeah.
Okay. And you've always lived in Mozambique?
No. I used to live in the Netherlands, and then... Because my dad's a diplomat. So I used to live in the Netherlands. Then I moved to Brazil. Then I moved back to the Netherlands. And then I moved to Mozambique. And now I'm in South Africa.
Okay. Did your parents meet here in Mozambique?
Yes. Okay. Before I was born, my dad was here for like 20 years for his job.
Okay. Then you guys went back to the Netherlands?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did you live in Brazil?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, so you were born in the Netherlands and you stayed there for how long?
6 years.
For 6 years?
Yeah.
When you were 6, you moved to Brazil?
Yes.
Till you were 9?
Yes.
Then you came back? Where did you go to?
I went to the Netherlands and I stayed there until I was like 13.
Okay.
Like late 13. And then I moved to Mozambique.
Uh-huh. And from 13 up to 16?
Yeah, I was in Mozambique.
And 17 you went to South Africa?
Yes, I turned 17 in South Africa.
So you only lived in Mozambique for 3 years?
Yeah.
And you speak Portuguese fluently?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure that was because you spoke in the house?
Yeah, with my parents, my mom, my siblings sometimes, and then aunts, uncles.
I wonder what your accent is like. Given the fact that, you only lived there for 3 years.
I mean, I speak... My accent is like a mixture of Mozambican Portuguese and Brazilian Portuguese. Because I learned to speak Brazilian Portuguese, but then I moved here, so I picked up on the Mozambican, but it's like... It's a mix.
That's gotta be the coolest thing ever.
No. I barely speak Portuguese because I don't like it.
I heard you speak Portuguese earlier today.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
You said, no faz mal.
You remember that? Yeah. See, I didn't notice very small, like, small words, small sentences.
But you, like, understand everything. Like, no one can fool you type thing.
No.
Okay.
Only if they start speaking, like, lingo, like, random street lingo. Then I'm like, okay. But besides that, I understand everything.
Okay. Do you speak any other like local languages, like from Mozambique?
No.
Okay. But your mother does.
She kind of does, because when we moved to the Netherlands, she didn't have anyone to speak to. Like, she learned Dutch, and then she didn't have anyone to speak. I think it was Shangana with. So then she just kind of, like, forgot it. But now that she's here, she's kind of, like, getting it back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. You have any siblings?
Yes, I have... I have 3 sisters and 1 brother.
Okay.
And then 2 half-sisters. So from the same dad, but not the same mom.
Okay, so 3 siblings and 1 brother.
Yes.
2 from...
2 from the same dad, different mom.
Wait, okay. How many siblings do you have that are from the same parents?
2.
2.
Yes.
That's 2
My
girls.
brother and 1 girl.
Okay. Is she
Yeah.
older than you?
Yes, I'm the youngest out of all of us.
So is your brother the oldest?
No, my brother is above me, so he's like 2 years older.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how old is your older sister?
My other older sister, she's 23.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other one is, I think she's 37.
Okay.
And then 39.
All right.
Yeah.
From your father's side.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your relationship like with your siblings?
I mean, my half sisters, it's a bit like rocky as well, but also because we haven't really lived together. So like we know each other because we're siblings, obviously. But since I spend a lot of time away from the Netherlands, I don't really see them often.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other 2 siblings, my brother and I are very close because we basically traveled everywhere together. And then my other sister you can tell we're sisters, and
Okay.
yeah, we get along very well as well.
Okay. You have a background in gymnastics.
Yes.
When did that start?
That started when I was like 9. So I'd say after I moved back from Brazil, my neighbor, she was doing gymnastics, and I was always doing like cartwheels on the grass and whatnot. She was like, "You should go to gymnastics," and I was like, "I'm okay." And then I ended up going, and then I ended up loving it. So then I just stuck to it, and then I kept doing it. I even did it here in Moz, and then COVID hit, so then the gyms closed, so I couldn't do gymnastics anymore.
That was when you were in the Netherlands. You started at 9 years old in the Netherlands.
Yeah, in the Netherlands.
And then you came here.
Yes.
Okay. And I mean, I have a very like vague idea of like gymnastics. Like, is it like ballet?
No.
What is gymnastics?
Gymnastics, you basically just do a bunch of flips. Like, okay, no, wait, that makes it seem like you just do flips. Okay, so you have 4 events, and there's like 3 different types of gymnastics. I think there's rhythmic gymnastics, artistic gymnastics, and there's one more that I don't know the name of. So I used to do artistic gymnastics, which is 4 events, and then at a competition, you can either choose to do all 4 events, and then you train all 4 events, or you just focus on one event, and then you compete for that one event. So I did all 4 of them. And then you have beam, bars, floor, and vault. And, I mean, you just do flips and, like, exercises and whatnot. See how pretty you can do them, and then they just judge you based on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were when did you what was your goal with gymnastics? Was it just for fun?
I wanted to go to the Olympics. I was very determined. And then I moved to Moz. And in Mozambique, they don't really take sports seriously. So it's like, I just started doing it for
in
fun.
comparison to where to the Netherlands.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to, hold off on that Olympic dream. For now, I'll just do it for fun. And then I got injured. And then I also, COVID hit, and I just decided to stop completely.
Okay. What was the injury?
I have, we don't have a proper diagnosis yet, but we're pretty sure it's patella alta, which is one of my half-sisters, and then my other sister, she also has it. And it's basically that our kneecaps are, not fully... I don't know how to explain it. It's like our kneecaps are either too far in or they're too high up, and then it affects the muscles around it, and then it starts hurting a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any kind of strength work that you can do to absorb the pressure from the knees into the muscles? Yeah,
you can strengthen your patellas and your quads, your hamstrings, and then it helps. But I mean, it still hurts. So
okay.
Yeah.
Have you done everything in your control to minimize the pain?
No. I'm very lazy.
Okay.
So whenever they say, "Oh, you have recovery training," or rehab, I'm like, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah, like
I mean,
at the beginning, they used to say like, "Oh, you have 2 weeks off, and you just have to do your rehab." And I barely did my rehab.
Okay.
Yeah.
You kept training
Yeah.
because you love it that much.
Yeah. But then it affects me later.
Right.
But now I've started to take it more serious because if I actually want to achieve things, I have to take my injuries serious.
Okay. So back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, you were 14.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You ran at a school event,
Yes.
and you weren't interested in running. You
Yes,
stopped
I-
because you were doing gymnastics,
Yes.
and then you ran again,
Mm-hmm.
and then your coach called your parents.
Yes.
Now my question is how. Wait, first of all, can you give a bit of context of that story? back
Yeah.
then?
So, I used to study at the American school, and you have PE, and then you have different units in PE. So you have football, rugby, track, baseball, whatever you can think of. They do it. And then we had the track season, and we were just playing around. Like, my friend and I were just running around, sprinting and whatnot. And then the coach came up to me after PE, and he was like, "Oh, Astrid, I want you on the varsity track team," because there was junior varsity and then varsity. He was like, and varsity is the higher level. So he was like, "Oh, I want
Are those
you."
like sorry to cut you off, but are those like age?
No, it's basically they choose based on your skills and how fast you are, or like how far you can throw, whatever you're doing, which event you're doing. So he was like, "Yeah, I want you to join the varsity team," and I was like, "No, I'm cool. Like, I want to do gymnastics. I'm not interested." And then he chased me around for like 6 months, probably. Or no, wait, it wasn't 6 months. The unit isn't 6 months. It was like 3 to 6 weeks. And every single time I was like, "No, I'm not going. I'm not going. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it." And also varsity was like basically with grade 12s, grade 11s, and I was in like grade 7. I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going with those older people. They scare me." And then he called my parents, and he was like, "Astrid has talent, but she doesn't want to use it. She doesn't want to come to training, blah, blah, blah." So I didn't know he called my parents. He told me, but I thought he was joking. So I come home, and my mom is like, "Astrid, you need to try it out for at least a month. If you don't like it, you can quit." And I was like, "Okay." So I went once, and then I hated it because we were doing resistance training, and it was so tough.
And
it's
what
a lot of
what is
running.
that for the people
Resistance
who
training is basically training for your cardio, so to make sure your resistance is, so you can run a lot, basically.
don't know? Okay.
So we did like pyramids, which is you do 5 laps, then 4 laps, 3 laps, 2 laps, 1 lap, and then you go back up. And I hated it, and my muscles were sore, and I didn't want to do it anymore. So I come home, and I was like, "I'm not doing that anymore." And I avoided the PE teacher for like a whole week. And then he called my parents again, and he was like, "Astrid didn't come to training anymore, and she needs to come back." So my parents made me go back, and then I ended up going back. And then we started doing like the fun stuff, like sprinting and strength and all of that. And I was like, okay, it's kind of fun, but I still want to focus on gymnastics. And then the time for the competition arrived, and then they said that I was chosen to go. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll go.
Which competition?
And ICEA. It's basically a competition they have for, like, I don't know which sports. It's like at the American school, it's volleyball, basketball, track, swimming, and a couple others. And then you can just, it's all ICEA schools. It's 7 ICEA schools. They compete against each other.
So just for a bit of context, ISSEA, ICA,
Yes.
right, stands for International Schools of Southern and Eastern Africa.
Yes.
You went there at age 14. You were competing with older athletes.
Yes.
And you won 100 meters and 200 meters.
Yes.
I mean, as your first experience running against the people who you feared so much, how was it winning the competition at not only 100 meters distance, but also 200 meters?
It was, I mean, I didn't see the fun of it because, I mean, obviously I got a medal and I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. Like, I got a medal, everyone's happy, cool. Because I basically, at the time, I was only doing it for the team because they really wanted me to go and they wanted to win, like, the big school thing or whatnot. Like, the school trophy plaque thing they get. And I was like, okay, I mean, I won, but I'm still going to do gymnastics. Like, gymnastics was the only thing on my mind. And then when I won, everyone was like, oh, you're like the female Usain Bolt, and and I was like, Okay. And they were like, yeah, you're going to go to the Olympics someday. I was like, no, I'm not interested in this. And then even my brother was there. And then when I won, I'm going to expose him, but he was crying. And he was like, oh, Astrid's going to go so far. And I was like, boy, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't want to run. I'm just here for the team. And then, but it was okay, I guess. Like, it was my first gold medal in track. So I was like, okay. Yeah. And it was nice because I made the team happy. So I was like, all right.
I mean, you must be talented, right? I'm sure you were competing against people who had been competing for longer than you.
Yeah, because they were doubting me there as well. Like, because most of the coaches there knew I did gymnastics. So they were like, oh, she does gymnastics. She's young. It's her first time at ICEA. She's not that fast. We've never seen her before. And then they're like, oh, my athlete does basketball, so she knows how to run. And then I mean, I beat them. So
yeah. So despite of all that, you still won. Yeah. And then when you came back to Mozambique, you were sent to Parque dos Condenadores.
Yes.
Who sent you there?
Coach Ben. He was the PE teacher at school. Okay. And he knew Coach Azarias, who trains athletes at the park. And then he set me up with him, and then I started training with him. Okay.
Now, were you training for like a team?
At first I wasn't, and then I started training for Ferroviário.
Okay. And why did your PE teacher, Ben, send you to the coach at Parque dos Condenadores? Like, why didn't you just continue training with the school?
Because at school, the track unit, it was also only 3 months. And then after that, they moved to, like, basketball and football and everything. And Coach Ben is the coach for most of the after-school activities as well. So he had to coach football. And I didn't want to train at the track. I wanted to train at school as well. But then he was like, no, because if you actually want to go far and use your talent, you have to train with proper coaches who know what they're doing and not just a PE coach. And I was like, all right, I guess I can try it out. And then I got sent to those coaches at the track.
Okay, so his idea was that you're so talented that you must solely invest and devote yourself to track instead of doing all these sports at school that are compulsory at the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or, well, no, you could choose which after-school activity you wanted to do, but they'd advise you to do after-school activities.
Okay. And did you do track outside of school as well as another sport at school?
No, I don't think I did any other sport at school. I wasn't interested in that. Because at the time, I was doing gymnastics and track at the same time. Because I wasn't really focused on track yet. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to track like once, twice a week, and then gymnastics all the other days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it gymnastics at school?
No, it was at, what's that university called?
When?
No.
São Tomé?
No, it's,
Is it near Hospital Central?
Yeah.
In INEF?
Yes.
But there's a name for the university. I just don't know what it is.
I think it's, but it's that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I thought you said it was the sports at school was compulsory. But yet you just said you also said that you did not participate in any sport activities.
It wasn't necessarily compulsory, but they'd advise you to do those sports. And also, like, since the PE coaches really wanted me to do track, they also kind of excused it, and they would just let me go to track.
Okay. So, the 2021 to 2022 season, you attended the African Union Sports Council Region 5 Youth Games in December 2021. However, you did not compete because you weren't eligible because of your age.
Yes.
You were 14 at the time?
15.
15?
Yeah.
What was the competing age?
It was 16 and up.
Okay.
And it was 16, 17, 18. And then when the president of the federation signed us up, they said that it was fine, that we could go. And then we got there. It was me and this friend of mine, Sabino, who also runs for Mozambique. We were both 15 at the time, and then they didn't let us run. And they only told us like 2 hours before competing. Okay. So then we had breakfast and whatnot, and we were getting ready to go to the track. And then this guy comes to us, and he's like, "Oh, you guys aren't running because you guys are 15." And the competition was in Lesotho, so we had to like travel. I think we traveled like 28 hours to get there by bus. And then they told us we weren't competing. So it was tough because for my first international competition, I was excited. And then, because at the time I was already slowly getting more interested in track, so I was excited, but then I couldn't go home, so I had to stay there and watch everyone run and do the events that I was going to do, which was kind of painful. But I mean, I used it as my lesson, and then I learned from it that there's ups and downs, even like when you're competing internationally, and that like you can dwell on it, but it's not going to help you with anything, because at the end of the day, you're just going to sit there.
Okay.
And then the same competition, I had it, I think it was last December, and then I was allowed to run, and then I came third, so I was pretty happy about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, were you competing solo, or were you representing Ferroviario?
At that competition,
At,
I was
at the
representing
African-
Moz.
Moz.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were training for the national team
Yeah.
already. Okay, and how many? What was the selection process? How did you get selected to the national team? Because I don't know how it is in track, but for football, I mean soccer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here in Mozambique, every single soccer player aspires to get into the national team,
Yeah.
and it's challenging, you know. For you to get selected, you must be of a certain level,
Yeah.
you know, because every player in every province is competing for the same exact spot that you
yeah,
want.
of course.
So how was it to get selected to the national team?
It was very easy, actually, because personally, I didn't even know there was a national team. And then I remember randomly getting a text from my coach. He's like, "Oh, you're going to this competition." And I was like, "All right, cool." And then ever since, I've just been on the national team, because they basically choose the fastest people, because Mozambique doesn't have that many fast people that they've discovered yet. So they only choose the ones that they know of. And then there's like people in other provinces, but they don't really look at those people. It's mainly just Maputo. Like all the fast people in Maputo, they just go.
And how do you feel about that?
I think it's wrong. Like obviously, I like traveling because it's very nice to travel for like your country and whatnot and represent your country. But personally, like I feel like they should choose other athletes as well, because it motivates them as well. Because there's a lot of athletes that just train and then they train, but they don't compete. And I know, like, when I'm training, I'm like, okay, I'm training for this competition, because I know I'm going to go to either this competition or the next competition. So either way, I have to train. But then there's other people that are just training and they never get to compete, which is sad, because they train just as hard as I do, if not harder, to make the national team, but then they don't. So I think it's kind of unfair.
Okay. So you're saying if they were looking to compete at an international level representing the country, and that would be an incentive not only to work harder, but it would actually motivate them to train, right?
Yes, for sure.
On the 29th of April, 2020, you participated at the Gaborone Continental Tour,
Yes.
and you were in third place.
Yes, overall, yeah.
Okay. Was it a national? Were you representing the nation?
Yes. Although the country didn't pay for us to go, it was my dad, and then my friend's dad, and then like I think we were like 4 or 5 athletes, and then we went with our coach. We went there, and then we competed, and then I mean we represented Mozambique either way, but it wasn't like paid by Mozambique at all. We paid ourselves.
How does that work?
I mean, Mozambique is, how do I say this? They're kind of greedy when it comes to their money. So in sports,
like Mozambique as a nation as a whole,
I'd say the sports world. But let's just say the president of our federation, the president of the Mozambican Athletics Federation, he doesn't want to spend his money unless he really thinks you're going to win. And then, so we asked him to sign us up for that competition. Well, we asked him to go to that competition, and he said, "Oh, you guys aren't at the level to go there." Blah 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 blah. So we were like, okay, if you don't want to take us, just sign us up, because to sign up, it has to come from a federation. So we were like, okay, just sign us up, and then we'll go ourselves. We'll figure out a way. And then that's what we did. We asked him to sign us up. He signed us up, and then we got our parents to pay for our trip there. And then we just all went there and we competed.
Okay. Was it a youth competition?
No, that was with seniors.
Okay. And you won third place?
Yes. But we didn't, like, at that competition, since it was a continental tour, but they weren't giving out like medals and whatnot, because you basically have like a morning session and then an afternoon session, and then the afternoon session is with like the real professionals, and then the morning session is with like people that from different countries that just go there just to run. So then you don't get like any money or medals or anything. You just run and get like times, because here in Mozambique you also don't have electronic times, which are the ones that are valid to sign up for other competitions.
What are electronic times?
It's basically a more accurate time because you can take hand times, which is with a stopwatch, but then you basically take it when you hear the gun or when you see the smoke coming out the gun. That's when you press. So then the times are very inaccurate. And then with electronic time, it's usually there's like cables connected to your starting blocks. And then when the gun goes off, the time starts. And when you cross the finish line, there's a camera that takes up the sensors of like when you cross the finish line, it stops your time and then you get your times.
So you said you need that in order to sign up.
Yes. So there's other competitions where you have like qualifying standards. And then your times have to be hand time. I mean, they have to be electronic times. But there's some competitions, for example, like competitions in Africa, they usually use hand times and you have to run a certain hand time or a certain electronic time to qualify.
Okay.
Because some African countries don't have the electronic timer.
Right. So in this case, you qualified for the morning time.
Well, for that competition, you didn't have to qualify. We just went there to get the electronic times so we could know where exactly we stand.
All right. And why did you not compete in the afternoon with the professionals?
They're the ones who like put you in, and then they put us in the morning schedule.
Okay. I mean, you did not have electronic times at the time,
I didn't.
So it wasn't even.
Yeah, and it was also like my second international competition after when I started training seriously.
Okay.
Like when I was like, okay, I'm gonna start doing track seriously. So I didn't really mind.
Okay. About a few days later, about 8 days, I don't know how many months in April there are, but let's say less than 11 days later, the 7th of May, the same year, you participated in the Swaziland National Championship, and you won second place, which was an improvement.
Yes.
How was that like?
It was nice. I mean, I don't like losing. It's very frustrating because I'm very hard on myself when it comes to running. Or like in general when it comes to sports. So the fact that I didn't win first, because it was very close as well. So I didn't really like that I didn't win. And the girl I lost to, she was older. But even the age, like I don't let it bother me at all. I'm like, okay, I'm running with some other girl that I don't know. But I don't care about her age or anything. I just know that I want to beat her. So when I lost, I was very sad. Like it was second, but I still lost.
Right, that's true. That's true. I mean, only the winner has the privilege of actually like feeling the victory.
Yes, exactly.
And in the same month, you competed in the Swaziland African Championship. You won second place for both 100 meters and 200 meters. How different was the Swazi National Championship than the Swazi African Championship?
One of them was just a competition they organized, and then the second one was their nationals. So for them, it's more important because obviously it's to see who was national champion. And then for us Mozambicans, Swaziland had just invited us to go because, I mean, we're neighbor countries, so it's easy for us to go to them and for them to come to us. So they were like, if you guys want to come to our nationals, you guys are welcome to. And then we ended up going to their nationals.
How were they evaluating the best national athletes and still inviting foreign athletes?
You basically just like whoever came second, and then for us, like the girl that came first, she was also she was from Swaziland as well, so she won. And then they gave us the Mozambicans that won, they also gave us a medal, but the people that came second or third, like after us from their country, are the ones who won.
Okay.
Like the recognition of the title.
What would happen if you got first place as a foreigner in that competition?
I don't know. I think I would have gotten the gold medal, and then the girl that won from Swaziland would have also gotten a gold medal.
Okay, as the best national athlete.
Yeah.
Okay. In both competitions, you got second place.
Yes.
What do you think was the missing factor that prevented you from actually winning both competitions?
I mean, she was very tall, and she's fast. But like when you're tall, you can take strides. So, and she knows how to use her stride. You can take strides.
What's that?
So it's like bigger steps, basically. And then she basically takes very big steps, but she's also fast, so it helps her run. And she knows how to use her height to her advantage, and I was still learning to do that. And also the weather, it was very cold and it was raining at the time. So whenever it gets very cold, I get a lot of knee pains as well. And then that also affects how I run.
Okay. But do you think there was anything in your control that you could have done to, I mean, regardless of all those factors that were against you, anything you could have done to just improve, I mean, just perform despite of all that?
I mean, maybe if I was more focused, because I know I didn't really take that competition seriously. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna run, like, I'm just here. But I didn't really, like, take it seriously. Like, at the beginning, I didn't take any of my competition seriously. I was like, it's fine, I'm just gonna run. But, like, I'd want to win, but I didn't want to put in the effort to win. But then after, I was like, okay, now I want to put in the effort because I really want to win.
How could you have taken it more seriously?
Probably train harder for it. And also, like, on the day of the competition, not, like, play around as much. Because if you play around a lot and you start, like, moving around, your muscles obviously get tired. Like, you might not notice it, but your muscles get tired. Because once you're running, you'll feel it. And then I was walking around a lot, and I wasn't really, like, staying in one place. And then my muscles obviously got tired. So then I came second.
So now, I mean, the good thing is that you learn from it, right? I'm sure you don't make the same mistakes.
I do.
Today. You do. You still,
I haven't changed.
Okay.
Unless someone yells at me and tells me to sit down, I'm not going to sit down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2023, this year. February 18th, you participated at the Koro Top 10 competition.
Yes.
That's the official name, right?
Yeah, Kuro.
And you won first place.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time you actually won a competition after the first competition abroad, when you represented your school.
Yes.
How was that feeling after so long?
It was nice, I guess, because it was also a school competition. It's this school competition they have in South Africa.
Okay.
So obviously I moved to South Africa in January, so it was my first competition in South Africa as well. Yeah,
Okay.
it was. So then when I went there, like, it was my first competition since I moved there. So when I won, I mean, I was actually very mad. I didn't like I like that I won, but I didn't. Because I have this thing that I would rather, like, lose and run a good time than run a bad time and win. And at that competition, I ran a bad time, but I won. So I was very mad. Like, there's even a video, and I was like, when I crossed the finish line, I was very frustrated. And then even the reporters there were like, oh, we saw that you weren't very happy with your times and whatnot. Like, what's wrong? And I was like, no, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
What was the age limit?
It was under 18.
Under 18?
Yeah.
Okay. And how differently did you prepare for this competition than the other ones?
I mean, I had just started to adapt to my new trainings, because here in Mozambique, they do quantity over quality. So it's basically you do a lot during training, and you focus less on your quantity. It's more, on your quality of training. And there you do very little, but everything you do is at 100%. So it can get very tough there. So I was still trying to adapt to, like, their way of training and everything. So obviously my muscles and whatnot, like, I don't know how to explain it, but, like, I felt a change in the way that I trained, because I was a lot more tired. And at that day as well, the weather was very bad. But either way, I think it was yeah. The preparing was different, because I feel like the resources I had available to me were a lot better than the ones that I had here in Moz, which is also one of the reasons why I moved.
So you were better prepared.
Yes.
With all the respect to the coaches, I also have noticed when I used to train track at Parque Escondedora, I would notice some athletes running for hours or even walking for hours, and I was so confused at that. And I know the coaches are professional and they definitely know that they're doing what they're doing, but I disagree with that style of training.
Yes.
I don't see the purpose in running for 2, 3, 4 hours, or even being there for 4 hours when you could run for 30, 45 minutes and do an effective training session.
Yes.
So that's something I disagree with, and I don't think it's the best method of training, if you were to ask me.
Yeah, I agree, because in South Africa, that's what we do. We train for, like, I'd say, like, after school we start at like 3:30, and then we have our warm-up, which is 30 minutes, which is, everyone has a different day. We all do the same warm-up, but you do it at your own pace. So, because it depends on who, like, every person warms up differently. So then we have like 30 minutes to do our own warm-up and whatever. And then we start, and then we're usually done in like an hour. So our training is like an hour and a half to 2 hours. But here in Mozambique, I would train for 2.5 hours to 3 hours, and I would be dead. And I wouldn't say it's bad because it helped me a lot with my cardio because we ran a lot, so obviously your cardio goes up. But you get very tired, and at some point you feel like you're not even doing anything at all because you're so tired, and you feel like you don't improve and anything. Like, yeah, it was very tough. Training in Mozambique is tough. Like, you have to be mentally strong to be able to do these trainings.
And I'm speaking as an ex-footballer. I mean, I wasn't playing at a professional level or anything, but I played at a competitive level, right, for my age group in my country.
Yeah.
And even in football, you don't need to train for 2-3 hours. As a matter of fact, I think that in the long term, that does more harm than good.
Yeah.
It's just unnecessary. You can do a very good training session for 30 minutes and be and you don't have to being dead like or like extremely fatigued does not necessarily mean you did a good training session.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not
just
about
you're
that.
tired.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not about getting tired.
Yeah.
It's about doing what's effective even if you're not tired afterwards.
Yeah.
Although being tired is an indication that you've done a lot, but a lot of times doing a lot is not doing a good effective training session. You know?
Yeah.
So I definitely agree with you on that. I don't think it's necessary for being a training field for hours and hours, you know. I think the best sessions are shorter than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
You know?
As long as you give it your all while you're doing those short sessions.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Because when you know you have, like, I could come to training. Every month we would get a new training plan here in Mozambique. We get a new training plan and you see like, oh, I have 300, I have 3 300s, then I have 2 200s, 1 100, then I have 150, 120, whatever. And then you know, like, okay, on Monday, we used to have like a really hard session, Mondays and Wednesdays. So we're like, okay, we're dying today. So then you would already mentally prepare yourself and you would go to the track and then you'd get there and you're just already tired. Like just looking at the track, you're like, no, this is not it. Because you know, like, okay, I'm going to die. And then when you're running, you basically hold back because you want to be able to finish the session. So you basically don't give it your all because you don't want to not be able to finish the session. Also, our coach didn't let us finish the session because our coach was just like that. So he wouldn't let us not finish the session. So even if you were tired, if you had to take 5 minutes extra rest, he wouldn't care, but you're finishing the session, which would lead to us staying at the track for like 3-4 hours. Yeah.
I mean, let me also say this. I'm sure there's some value or there's some benefits to training for long hours. I'm not saying it's entirely bad. I'm sure it has some advantages. But what I'm saying is if that's the only training that an athlete does, then it's probably not the best way of going about it, you know.
Sure.
I think there's an importance of doing resistance training, which I guess resistance training can be long like training for long hours to improve the stamina, but also there are other types of trainings that you're required. I mean, there are benefits to doing.
Definitely,
you know? That alone, I don't think. I think in the long term that only does more harm than good. Like I said,
for sure.
The 13th of May, you attended another national Mozambique competition, and you were you were placed first, right? Yeah. And is there a difference between the Mozambican athletes in comparison to the other African athletes of other countries?
Definitely. I think it depends which country you choose. But for example, if I take South Africa, in South Africa, the trainings, the resources, everything you have, it's like, it's for the athlete's benefit. And here in Mozambique, they just tell you to work with what you got, which is, if they don't have it, they're not going to go out of their way to get it for you. So in Mozambique, like, if other countries come here, they'd probably beat us. Like, I'm going to be very straight up, they'd beat us. And then even with me, like, before I moved because I was already fast because my flexibility helped from gymnastics and then just like the way I trained. But then there's like others that other countries, they come to Mozambique and they just beat like most of the girls or most of the guys because of the resources that they have that Mozambique doesn't have, or even food. Like there's a lot of athletes at the track that I know that like they would come to the track, they're like, oh, I'm hungry, or like, oh, I'm gonna go home, but I can't like fuel myself because I don't have food. I don't have money for food. And Mozambique also doesn't do anything to give them food. Like knowing, even if they're on the national team Unless you're in the Olympic Village, they're probably gonna go home and not even eat enough, or they always eat the same things, but they don't eat enough proteins and whatnot. Like, and in South Africa, most athletes that I know from South Africa, they all have it. And then even like, how do you say it? Like the opportunities to go to the Olympic Village, because the Olympic Village is basically a place where they train athletes, and then hopefully they prepare you enough so you can go to the Olympics. And for us, like, I've already told like multiple people and my parents as well, if I was ever to be offered a place in that Olympic Village, I'd turn it down and tell them to give it to someone who really needs it. Because for me, my dad's a diplomat. I don't necessarily need to be in the Olympic Village, and there's other people who would need it more. Like food on the table every day, they would need it more than I do.
What is Olympic Village?
It's like, it's in Zimpetu. It's like basically a compound, and then there's a bunch of athletes that stay there, and then they get training, gym, food, everything is provided for them. But there's only a couple athletes there. Like they don't put enough athletes there either to make them like stars, I guess.
Okay. As an athlete here in Mozambique, I mean, as a Mozambique, is your nationality Mozambican?
Yeah, Mozambican and Dutch.
Okay. As a Mozambican athlete, what do you think needs to be done to improve track as a sport here in Mozambique?
I think they need to stop eating our money. Like, the government and our federation, they get money to spend on the athletes. They get sponsors to spend on the so the sponsors give us things and then they use it on the athletes. But they don't do that, especially the president of our federation. He basically just, if he gets money, he's going to use it and he's going to say he didn't get any. Or, like, he's going to use it for the wrong things. And us athletes, like, it demotivates us because we train and then he doesn't take us anywhere to any competitions with like the money that they give us. Like, I'm lucky enough to go to a lot of competitions, but there's others, like I said, that train and then they don't go because he says like, oh, you guys didn't qualify, so you guys can't go. But if he didn't use the money that they gave us, he could have paid a ticket or like a place at that competition for the other athletes to go as well. And also, I'd say take sports more serious, because here they just think, oh, you just run and then you get faster, and if you make it, you make it. But there's a lot more to running. Like, you have to focus on technique. You need the right resources to be able to go, like medics, physio, everything, in order to become a good athlete. And here in Mozambique, they don't care about that enough. Like you leave Moz to go to a competition, and they only bring your coach and the athlete. They don't bring like physio, medics, none of that, unless it's like a government ran competition. And then if you look at South Africa, if they go to any competition, there's always like 3 to 4 medics, physio, everything that they need. So I'd say that as well plays a big part.
Okay, let's get into the Q&A. The question that the people asked.
Mm-hmm.
What inspires you to become a better athlete?
I don't know. A lot of people ask me that question, and I never know what to answer. It's like, basically, I wouldn't say, like, I don't feel good about myself when I lose or something. But it's like, whenever I run, I feel like it's a reward for myself. Like, oh, okay, you worked hard, and you deserve this. And then, like, I'd say to inspire, like, when I run, I don't really try to inspire myself. I mainly try to inspire other people, because I want younger girls, which is also why I chose to represent Mozambique. I want younger girls or younger athletes
when you could have had the option of
to represent the Netherlands.
Okay, have you received an offer?
You just ask if you can run for them, and then if they think you're fit to go for a competition, you can.
Okay.
So, me personally, my goal is to inspire younger girls or just athletes in general to know that even if you live in Mozambique or you've trained in Mozambique or like in any third world country, basically, that you can still make it if you work hard enough. So I just try to do my best to inspire other kids, because I know, like, at the track I have a lot of little girls that come up to me. They're like, oh, I want to be like you when I grow up, and that's what I do it for. So they know that even though they don't have the best resources, they can still make it if they just train hard enough.
What can the youth do to enhance sports in our home country, Mozambique?
I'd say, like, they have to keep training and keep trying to push, like, the companies and federations and whatnot to take them to travel. And also, like for example, just to not give up even though you have a lot of setbacks, because in Mozambique you're gonna get a lot of setbacks. These people disappoint you a lot, and basically all you can do is like stay strong and try and make sure that it gets solved, I guess. Like even like there was a group, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, we protested during nationals and we just didn't run, and we walked on the track for like, I don't know how many laps we walked, but we walked a lot. And then like we came on the news, we came on in the newspapers and whatnot, just so people get like, so they're aware of what's going on in our track world. So I think doing things like that, like peaceful protests, I guess, but in a way not protest, because it's like you protest but you don't protest, because we got in a lot of trouble. But like, yeah, so basically just try and make people aware and try and get like other people to help, like look for sponsors, look for parents that are willing to help, or do like fundraisers, so like people stay motivated to actually do what they want to do.
How do you see yourself in 5 years?
5 years.
You're gonna be 22.
Yeah. Hopefully, okay, so the next Olympics after 2024 is 2028, so I hope that I've been to those Olympics, and then I hope I've also improved my times. In 5 years, I think I'm capable of running under 10, or at least like low 11s by that time.
What's that?
11 seconds. So
100
like,
meters or 200?
Yeah, 100. And
how fast is that?
That's pretty fast.
Is it? Okay.
It's pretty.
So
fast.
you're pretty fast.
I run 11:99 now.
Okay.
I'd say like it's fast, but
how realistic is that to get to 10 in 5 years?
As someone who trains a lot and is very dedicated, I think it's pretty realistic for me.
And I think an average person who does not understand this world of track would think that it's too little. Like 5 years to get down in 1 second, like
no,
that.
Like getting your times down is actually very tough. Like it's normally people are like, oh, it's just a second, but it's not just a second, because you run, like you fight for your life when you try to run those times. And even like before I ran 11:99, I remember running 12 flat ones, like just 12 seconds. And I was so mad because it hurts so much to run 12 seconds instead of 11:99. Like every second or millisecond, it counts. And even when you're competing, like you can have the same exact time as someone, but if their 1/1000th of a second is faster, they'll go to the finals and you won't. So it's like, but I think it's pretty realistic. Like it's hard to get there, but I mean, I'm dedicated enough and I know I will make it.
How do you balance track and school?
When I studied at the American school, it was very tough because I was doing the IB, or I was getting started to do the IB. I was doing MYP at the time, but you still have a lot of homework, and I also don't like studying, so it's very, like, I'm lazy, so I'll leave everything for last minute. But since I'm an athlete, I can't do that because you have training after school. Like, I wake up in the morning, I go to school, and then I have a whole day of school, then I have training, and then I have to go home, do homework. But whenever I was doing my homework, I'd fall asleep because I was too tired. And so it was very tough. And then when I decided to move to South Africa, it's a sports school, so they basically help you balance this. So I go to school from, sometimes I have morning training, but that's very rare. And then I go to school from 9 to 3, and then 3:30 I have training. Then I finish around like 4:35, and then I have some time in my room alone or like with my roommates, whatever. And then I have dinner at 6, and then from 7 to 9 we have compulsory study. And then you have to, like, we sit in the auditorium and you study and you do your homework, you do whatever you have to do. So they basically they guide you in order to manage your time. And then, like, yeah, so the school that I go to now, it really helps because I study at Tucksport High School now. And that school really helps, helps athletes know what it's like, even if you want to go to the States and whatnot, because I know in the States, they also take academics and sports very seriously. So if you want a scholarship, you're obviously going to have to mix the two of them together. But it can be very tough. But if you're dedicated enough, I guess you can make something work. But it's a lot of crying because you get very overwhelmed because of sports, and then sports and then school. You're like, I can't do it. But then at the end, you manage anyway. So it's nice.
Are you single?
No. Lol.
What are your views on that? How do you balance a relationship, school, and being an athlete?
I mean, my boyfriend is very understanding. He knows. I've told him from day one, like track is like my main focus, and like if
Damn.
like whatever you want to do, you can join me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he knows, and he also sees how like determined I am and whatnot. And I mean, it's tough because we're doing long distance. Because I live in South Africa and he lives here in Mozambique. But whenever I'm here, I try to see him as much as I can. And then when I'm in South Africa, we talk as much as we can. And then we make it work. It's tough, but we make it work.
Okay. What are some of the challenges of being an athlete and having a romantic relationship as well?
I mean, for me personally, there's not that many challenges because he's very understanding. And he understands that I take track very seriously. And he watches, like, whenever I have races and I send live streams, he always watches them. And he's very supportive and whatnot. And then when I'm in Mozambique, he tries to come watch my competitions here if I do compete here. But, yeah, I'd say, like, there's other relationships where, for example, your boyfriend doesn't understand that you're trying to, like, focus on a career, like, a sports career or something. Or maybe he doesn't believe in, like, sports careers and whatnot. But luckily, my boyfriend's very understanding, so it's nice.
From what I hear, right? Only from what I hear, having a relationship or being in a relationship is it's quite demanding.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the relationship. Not everyone is the same, but in general, I think that it's quite demanding.
Yeah.
In the sense that you have another person who, how can I put it? There's this word I want to use. Who is entitled to your time, and already being an athlete is demanding on its own.
Yeah, it is.
Being an athlete on top of being a student is extremely demanding.
It is.
And every athlete and student out there can relate to this.
Yeah.
Now, being an athlete, being a student, and being in a relationship, that can be a lot.
Yeah.
So, how do you balance your time? And do you speak to your boyfriend every day?
I'd say we try to speak as much as we can, but there's times when, like, because he's still in school, because he's my age, he's 17 as well. So, obviously, like, there's days that he does what he does outside of school, and he goes to school and whatnot, and I do what I do. So, there's days that we're very tired, and then we just both end up falling asleep and we don't talk. But then the next day, it's like, oh, it's cool. And then, like, I'd say it's like a low maintenance relationship. Like, we don't have to talk every single day. I'm also, like, not very clingy when it comes to, like, being over the phone and whatnot. Like, obviously I like being on phone calls and whatnot, but at some point if you keep messaging me like 24/7, I'm like, okay, leave me alone. So I don't really mind that much. Like, there's some days that I'll be like, oh, I really feel like talking to him, but then I'm like, I don't have time right now. So then it's like, okay, but then obviously I try to make time. Like, it's tough, but it's okay. It works.
And he also has his own things going on, right? He has his own goals outside of school.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I think that helps.
Yeah,
because if he didn't have
he'd constantly be
like
glued to me.
occupations,
Yeah,
he would be expecting you to call him and speak to him, and maybe that would be an even bigger problem.
Yeah.
You know? How's your nutrition?
My ish. It's bad. I don't eat that much. I also don't. I mean, I drink water, but I'm not gonna lie. The water in South Africa tastes funky. Like, it tastes weird. So I don't drink that much water either. But obviously, if I don't drink enough water, my muscles start cramping, and then my coach yells at me. So I try to drink as much water as I can, and then the food at my school is not the best because I go to boarding school. So the food it's not the best, but I try to make it work. And, like, even one thing I do notice is, like, at competitions, in between my races, I won't eat because then I'm like, oh, I'm going to get heavy. But then I also don't have enough energy to run, and then I don't run to, like, my full potential. So then it's also kind of frustrating. But, I mean, we're getting there.
You ever thought of, like, doing more research as to how to enhance your career with proper nutrition for an athlete?
Yeah, I wanted to go see a nutritionist, but then I ended up getting lazy and I never did. But I'm still working on it. Like, next year, I mean, there's obviously this year still, but, like, next year and the year after that, I want to start, like, digging more into the things that athletes really need. So, like, see a nutritionist, see one of those people that, like, measures your body fat and all the body composition and whatnot, all of that, to really see what kind of athlete I am and what exactly I need in order to perform better.
Yeah, because the thing about getting advice on the internet is that it may be general.
Yeah.
And you want advice that's directly
exactly, for sure.
that meet your needs.
Yeah.
You It seems like your laziness is your biggest enemy.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Definitely.
You fight it. It's
Like I'm a lazy athlete. It makes no sense because I enjoy going to training and whatnot, but there's days that I'm like, no, I can't do this. I'm too lazy.
Do you feel like you take your talent for granted?
That's a tough question. Maybe a little bit. Like I know I'm talented, but for me it's like discipline over talent. So I might be talented, but that doesn't mean that I don't have to do as much. And then I think my discipline is what keeps me going. So even when I'm lazy, I'll still go to the track. And also at my school, if you don't show up to training a certain like percentage, they're going to like message you and your parents and be like, why isn't this person at training? But so it's basically, for me, I'm very disciplined. So I think that really helps because I'm lazy, but I'm also very disciplined. So my discipline pushes me to actually keep going and not give up on my dreams.
Sounds a little counterintuitive because on one hand you say you're lazy, on the other hand you say you're disciplined.
Yeah, it's very weird, but it works. So I'm still here, I'm still training, so it's good.
How do you get over defeat?
Ish. It depends on who beats me. Because usually when it's people my age, I'm like, okay, it's fine. But when I'm racing older girls, I don't want to be seen as like, oh, this younger girl, she lost because she's younger. I don't want to be seen as like that. At least in my head, that's like what I go through. I'm like, okay, these people are older, so it's okay if they beat me. But then at the same time, I'm like, no, it's not okay because they're also athletes and it shouldn't matter if they beat me or not, regardless of like their age, their height, their weight, whatever. So like there's days I remember, I think it was this year. Yeah, this year I ran at a competition and I didn't manage to run the 200 because of my knee injury, and I was very mad. Like, I wasn't really defeated, but I was like, I didn't get to run with the people, and a lot of people thought I was like backing out because it was a pretty big competition. And then I ran the 100 and it went fine. No, it didn't go fine. I came last. But then I ran the 200 and I didn't manage to run that 200. So I was very mad. And then the next day, I didn't even want to go to school. I didn't want to see anyone. I was like, okay, I need to like get my mind and my body in one place. And I have that a lot, that I'm like, my mind and my body are not in the same place. So I'll be thinking about like something completely different, but like my body in a sense will still be on the track. And then it affects my running because I'll be thinking about other things while I'm supposed to be thinking about how I'm going to run this competition. So usually when I lose, I'm like, okay, I lost, but what did I do wrong? So I'll spend like hours watching my videos just trying to figure out like how I can improve my next races. And there's like, yeah, there's some times where like competitions that I'll lose and it'll hit me hard. I'll be like, okay, like I don't know if I still want to do this. I don't like the fact that I lost and whatnot. But then I end up bouncing back and I like speak to my coach and I'm like, coach, like this is how I'm feeling. And then she's like, all right, well, and then we talk about it and then we end up like getting it sorted and then I end up coming back to the track anyways. So
Astrid, you have an upcoming competition, Youth Commonwealth at Trinidad and Tobago. That's a place in Southern Caribbean. How are you feeling about it in August 2023?
Well, to be very honest, I haven't really been training like I should. I hope my coach doesn't watch this. But I haven't been training as I should because I've been lazy. I feel like when I'm in Moz, I'm very lazy because it's the only opportunity I get to see my friends. So I try to spend more time with my friends than train. But overall, I'm pretty ready because right now I've been at the peak of my performance for this season. So I think... yeah, if I make sure my mind is in the right place by the time the competition comes, then I think I'll be fine.
Astrid, I wish you the best in the competition.
Thank you.
I hope you win first place.
I hope so too.
Thank you for being in the video.
Of course.
And the Action Podcast wishes you the best.
Thank you.
Are there any final words to the people who are watching?
Not really.
Not really? All right. If you enjoy watching the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to watch our featured content, our future podcasts, as well as clips that we may upload on the channel. If you have any questions regarding anything that was discussed on this during this conversation, during this episode, leave it down in the comments below. We'll definitely reply. Subscribe. Make sure you turn on the notifications. Like the video. And I'll leave more additional information on the description. Right. I'll see you in the next video. It's all about that action.